The family of the leader of the outlawed indigenous people of Biafra, Ipob, Nnamdi Kanu, has dismissed two of the Ipob leader's lawyers. Nnamdi Kanu, a younger brother to the Ipob leader, announced this in a post via his verified Twitter handle on Thursday. The affected lawyers are Ifeanyi Ejiofor, Mr. Kanu's lead counsel, and Michael Zekome, a senior advocate of Nigeria. His tweet stated that he had formally notified the lawyers that he was terminating their relationship with his brother. And I read out that particular tweet. I hereby formally notify at Mike Ozekome, SAN, and at Ifeanyi Ejiofor that their services are no longer required in Mazen Nnamdi Kanu's case pending before the Supreme Court of Nigeria and all cases concerning him. That's how the tweet read on the micro-login website with a dismissal note attached to it. In the note, Kanunta indicated that the family's grounds followed Mr. Ozekome's alleged refusal to see Mr. Kanu at the State Security Service facility since 11 May, despite the Ipob leader's several requests. He also accused Mr. Ozekome of stopping medical doctors sent by the family from carrying out a medical examination on the Ipob leader on the 5th of June at the SSS facility where he is being detained. He added that the lawyers stopped the doctors from carrying out the medical examination even though Mr. Kanu had, on the 2nd of June, informed him and Mr. Ejiofor about the doctor's visits. The lawyers were yet to react to the development as at the time of filing this report. Now, we will actually have a guest who will be joining us virtually. But first of all, I'll be asking this question to Cyril Abaku. Cyril Abaku, of course, is our in-house analyst, and it's important for you to respond to this. Nnamdi Kanu's family sacking his lawyers brings a whole new twist to the long journey of troubles for the Ipob leader. Isn't that true?
Well, as it is, the public couldn't have seen this coming. Because the details that are now being advertised as grounds for sacking the lawyers, we are as it were personal issues about doctors wanting to go and see him and about the lawyers. We really don't know why the lawyers were opposed to the doctor's visit. But the reality now is that the lawyers who will be taking over the case, that is, if they are not able to reach a rapprochement for settling the whatever differences that they might have, will have to, of course, Kanu's case has been a highly celebrated case globally and even in Nigeria. So any lawyer worth his onions would have been following up the case, especially now that the sack has taken place. They will definitely want to now even pay closer attention to be able to get a hang on the facts. And in case Kanu wants to hire anybody's services, the person steps in to become the new lawyer. But the fact is that for a long time, the public had been used to Ejiofor and Ozekome. Yes. Of course, Ozekome is a heavyweight. He's a household in Nigerian law today. So if you're removing him, I would like to think that you want to get somebody who is of equal standing or even higher, so that your appearances in court are not, Nigeria is a place where sometimes a man's face determines what door opens for him. So I hope that they've counted the cost and that they are ready to go this route.
Now, if you recall the Nnamdi Kanu's case, you said it's a global matter, agreed, but majorly for the supporters and some Southeasterners who believe in his mandate and the cause that he is pursuing. But if you recall, there's Aloy Ejimako. He has obviously, for the past week now, bringing up Nnamdi Kanu's case on the public via Twitter itself. And he's been advocating for, clemency from the presidency, advocating for his release and stating that on several occasions the court have asked that Nnamdi Kanu be taken back to where he was, taken before he was repatriated. Now, the scenario is this. Aloy has been the one speaking for a while. Michael Zekome and several public forums have been pleading as well on behalf of Nnamdi Kanu. What happened overnight? Would it be that some inducement have taken place?
Well, that's a very wild path to stretch our imaginations on. But my personal summation of the events is that, like I pointed out earlier, which you've also corroborated in a question, having a big name lawyer, having not a big name person, but having a voice that speaks for you. Because truth be told, cases like Nnamdi Kanu's case are tried on two grounds.
Okay.
One is the court of law. the other is a court of public opinion. And you need people who have the standing, who have the stature in the eyes of the public to be able to make a case for you before the public. So, on that ground, Ozokwe may not have been going to court every day. Of course, he's a well-known court-going lawyer, but he may not have necessarily gone to court every day. It is when he needs to make interventions that I think he'll be expected to make one. Number two, or if the lawyers need help, maybe perhaps assistance with his experience and his expertise, he'll be able to bring that to bear. But he was not going to be going to court. It's been a G4, am I correct?
Yes.
And then a Jimako. Am I correct now? Yes. So, but mostly a lawyer G4 who has been doing much of the talking, the press interviews, and so on. So basically, the family coming up, so we've not heard from them.
Yes.
We've not heard what the lawyers who have been relieved of their duties have to say. We've not heard from them. Except that for me, the way the federal government went about Nnamdi Kanu's prosecution, especially the Buhari administration, is what it really turned Nnamdi Kanu into a public hero.
Okay.
Into a victim of injustice, into a man that government just wanted to make a scapegoat out of. Because we also saw people making statements from other parts of the country and government didn't say anything. In fact, we were even told that because they were in the marketplace, that the DSS couldn't go in and arrest them because they were in the market. We are mixed up with so many people. Meanwhile, they were able to go to Kenya. And have not told us how they were able to bring him from Kenya to Nigeria. It just shows you how President Buhari defined justice. And this is why it is now beginning to look like, sacking of lawyers or not, the Nnamdi Kanu case may be settled politically. Who knows? That's what I think.
The question on my mind is, which I would have loved to ask the guests actually, but we're waiting to connect with our guest. They'll be joining us virtually. Oh, so we have our guest in. All right, so let's welcome our guest to the show. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right,
How
good
are
morning.
you?
Very well,
Fine.
thank you. Welcome to
Dr.
the show.
Hassan Sadiq.
Dr. Hassan. All right, thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Dr. Hassan.
Dr. Hassan, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Now, I was going to ask you this question. Why would a lawyer refuse to see their client, especially when the issue of health is being put on the table? That got me thinking, could there be something else? Because that's one of the reasons put forward for the sack of these lawyers.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me. First of all, a lawyer who is a document essay and which is well known, he has been on this case to the extent whereby in some public, where he has a functions, he will kneel down on his knee, begging the president that Nnamdi Kanu should be released after he has won the case at the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal, while the government on their own still want to continue with the case. Now, if you look at this, you cannot say the lawyer has not done the best, what he's supposed to do as a lawyer, as a client, which is, what's supposed to do to his client. Two, we don't know the positions of DSS, whereby possible they are giving refusal for the lawyer to see his own client, why they did not allow him and such things. I think before they now went into public, saying that they are sacking the lawyer who has been on this case, they are too hasty, because the case has won already in the court. But because the government still refused not to release him, that is what is keeping him there.
Now, one of the things they said...
Secondly,
Okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Secondly, in a matter like this, because the DSS does not operate like the way police operate. If you are bringing anything to your client which is inside their custody, sometimes they need a lot of security check to be able to know what are you bringing. Even if you say it's a medical, they have their own doctors in that place who attend to most of their people who are holding their own custody. So these are a lot of issues that the lawyer might not want to come out to the public, to tell the public what is actually going on. But that is why I said, I think they are too hasty, because the new regime has just come. They are looking at it that, okay, how will this issue be handled by the new administrations? But at this point where they now come out and be able to say this, I don't really look at it. It is yet time for the family to come out quickly and make such statements. That's on one part. Because my colleague who is there mentioning that the government just went and bungle, this man is injustice and all that. Yes, we can agree that there are certain processes the government did not follow. But there are certain things that, again, the public must know when it comes to the issue of national security. It is not the way sometimes we look at it vis-a-vis within locally here, it is so. I and you will agree vividly that when Nnamdi Kanu was not in this country, you could able to see how his statement against the country where he belongs to, mobilizing people. Today, you can also see what is going on in the Southeast. The Southeast themselves are not happy. The Monday and other days stay at home. It's a lot of problems social in that area. So I'm not speaking for the government, but these are also areas that we also have to look at it so that sometimes we don't lead into a conclusions that government did this, government did this. Now it is on the lawyer again. So these are the things we need to know. Today now the Southeast, it is not rest. The insecurity in the Southeast today is high. The business activity, everything is crippled. So we also have to look at this, that if we continue saying that, okay, government did this, what of the other side of this today? That's
okay,
because
so
there
are
are
you
everything
saying,
you have
Dr.
to go
Hassan,
it by the law.
Dr. Hassan,
But
so,
agitation is right. It is your human right to agitate for certain things. But
Dr.
the
Hassan,
procedure and the conduct which we approach it, it is what matters.
Dr. Hassan, so are you now saying
Yeah.
that no law was broken, or should we disregard whatever law that was broken in bringing Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria? Should we now disregard it based on the fact that there were other things that he probably did to destabilize the country? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. No, the two of them has broken the law because the process of secession was not followed. There is a Southern Sudan who cut out from the Sudan before. Today we know the crisis in the part of other Sudan is not affecting the Southern Sudan because they are new nations. We all see how they go about it. It is clearly stated in the United Nations Charter. How do you go about it? So you cannot say you are going to looking for justice and you don't go with equity and expected that. We also have to look at it. Agitation, whatever, it is individual human right to ask for it. But there are procedures you must follow so that you don't create other, so it be an insecurity of the others of the larger populace. When it becomes larger populace, it becomes national security.
All
and
right.
government will not sit down and look at you.
All right.
This is where the case.
All right,
Yes.
Dr. Hassan.
This is my point here.
All right.
Yes.
So, as of course, the case is already before the Supreme Court. I would have loved to take you back to when you made the statement on the current insecurity in the Southeast and the Monday sit at home being embarked upon or being imposed on the residents or community members of the Southeasterners. Although Ipob has distanced itself from, carrying on with that sit at home every Mondays. The only day they say they do that is when their leader is going to appear in court and they tell their members to sit at home to pray for him so that he gets some success in court. But right now, let's talk about the current situation with Nnamdi Kanu's lawyers being sacked, and especially by the brothers saying they no longer want them to be part of their legal team. A lot already has gone in play. Money spent. It's quite a very expensive venture. My question is, do you see any inducement taking place? Because I asked Mr. Cyril Abako right here in the studio, do you think these lawyers were being induced from preventing, their brother from having to get medical access to the doctors as they have been clamoring that Nnamdi Kanu's health is deteriorating at the DSS custody? Do you see an inducement creating this fracas within the Kanu's team?
Before we just go there are certain, me as a security expert, that's what we call security implications of actions you did. There are a lot of criminality today that are not in Nnamdi Kanu.
Okay.
But because they're given the window for the group to create such things, before Boko Haram, I also tell the government that, look, there are some certain actions within harassment, don't create security implications. There will be enemy of state who use that window to create trouble. Now that is apart. First of all, we also need to know Ezekome as a person. I don't think he's a lawyer that can be easily be induced by one thing or the other. Based on his antecedent, what he has done, his level, and legal whatever in the nations today. And also we need to get from the Nnamdi Kanu family What about the issue of payment to the lawyer, because it's not free service? Have that been done? We need to get to know. Because if you have a lawyer who stands for you and whatever, and possibly you have disagreement in terms of payment and you have not limited what you are supposed to pay, you will not expect the lawyer to continue in your cases. Because for them to go to that, it also require a lot of monetary resources.
All right, interestingly.
But when it comes to the issue of inducement, I will tell you no. Simply because the level this man is, he is a constitutional lawyer. One of the most important they try to do is to make sure they win on unwinnable.
All right, interestingly, it's
Yes,
interesting
it's
that
called, yes.
you told that line. Interestingly, the payment aspect. Now, it still brings me to the question. One of the accusations is that the lawyers have refused. Now, that's the word that was used. The lawyers refused medical doctors from seeing Nnamdi Kanu because they say he has a problem with his ears and needed to see the doctors. So the lawyer, since 11th May, refused medical doctors from seeing him and also refused to see him, in spite of the fact that he had called for his lawyer. The lawyer has refused. So maybe payment is the issue. Maybe. The family has not said that. The lawyer himself or the lawyers have not said that they are being owed. But aren't lawyers like doctors that first point of action should be to save lives? Now, if a client, also looking at the fact that the lawyer had worked, like you rightly said, he had worked, he had won cases already. Unfortunately, the government did not allow it fly. So yes, he did work. But there seemed to be some sort of moving away from the relationship now. Now, what is there to say that, okay, why? Yes, I was going to say lawyers are like doctors that should save lives first and then, come back later and say, okay, this is how much you are owing me for saving your life or for saving your friend's life. Now, in this case, if the man truly has problems with his hearing and needs doctors, and the lawyer is being accused of refusing the doctor's access to him, shouldn't that be a reason for sack? And probably a reason to even for one to think that, oh, could this lawyer be working against him now at this time? Now, we can't hear you. I think there's a problem with the audio, so we can't hear you. Could you, if you mute your mic, could you unmute it?
Okay. Even it's on the Zooms. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Now, if you look at it, you could also understand that when a lawyer take a case, there are stages of how the case will started to go. Now, the first is that Ezokome has won this case, which is the first negotiations resumed. That, okay, I'm going to take up this case on the basis of this, and for me to win the case as against the government, which that has been done. Now, the second phase is that the government is still refused to hold him on the ground, which at that time, it is not the lawyer now in his prerogative to say he must take it out, because the only way he can go is to go to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has given him the judgment, which means the first case has been settled. Now, going forward, again, we also need to understand that even he is a lawyer, if he's going there with the doctor, the DSS has to give permission for them to attend to. It is not the doctor who just has the right to go in straight and see the client because he's sick or whatever. Both the lawyer and the doctor must be accepted by the DSS, who the man is in the custody, before you can admit any medical attentions. So, for now, I think it is better for us to get in touch with Ezokome if he is ready to speak in this matter, since it is the family of Nnamdi Kanu who has spoken. And why these people has not spoken, what is the issue there? But as I've said, I don't think that a lawyer at that level will look at it and abandon such case without know any fundamental reasons that we have not heard from the lawyer. Because as SAN, what are you going to benefit when you abandon such case at this level?
All right.
It
Thank
is
you.
true.
All right, thank you. But, you know, just hold that thought. Mr. Cyril Abaku, do you have something to say?
Well, you know, earlier Dr. Sadiq had talked about the security implications of Kanu's actions, which nobody can deny. I, for one, I have never supported secession. I've never supported any call for the breakup of Nigeria, and I don't think I ever will, even in the nearest future. But I think that the Nnamdi Kanu conundrum, as I would like to call it now, has been exacerbated by both Kanu himself, his incendiary vituperative statements, as well as the federal government's rather mediocre or irresponsible prosecution of the matter. So the scenario is very funny. You rendition somebody from Kenya to Nigeria. Nigerians have said, how did you do this and why? Which is what it's supposed to be. Tell us how you, they didn't say anything. Then they took him to court. It is possible that Ipob alone in Nigeria connect federal government for renditioning him. Let's assume that the rest of us in Lagos, Sokoto, Abuja, say federal government, you've done the right thing. Then the federal government took this man to court, its own court. And the courts of the government voided government's actions and said, and literally struck a government and said, you have no grounds to bring this man on trial. You violated your own law in bringing him to Nigeria, the way you brought him to Nigeria. I think that sort of action sort of gives Nnamdi Kanu some level of legitimacy.
Okay.
Awards Ipob some moral right to grandstand. And then gives further encouragement to make them believe that their cause is indeed a worthy cause. Do I like Nnamdi Kanu as a person? Well, he's a citizen of Nigeria, so he has a right to be a Nigerian. That's one. Number two is the fact that he has said things that can set the nation on fire. Absolutely correct. But the federal government that could not and still hasn't proven that it has the wisdom, the tact, the competence to bring a man like this to face the law. You know, when Ipob began his own actions in Ibadan, they didn't also begin to look at the matter from the reality of the fact that something is wrong with the way we've organized ourselves and that we need to talk. They send they send guns and also, and the man escaped. Meanwhile, people that were making similar comments in Kaduna, Abikan, also, they call them CNG or so. Federal government said that they could not arrest them because they were gathered with market women in the marketplace. So it gives the feeling that we are not ready to
Cyril, let me
face issues squarely. So hold on, so Esther. If even your own courts have said you didn't have grounds to bring Nnamdi Kanu before it fought, about nine counts or so, all of them struck out at the same time. I mean, it just tells us that the federal government is more interested in persecuting than prosecuting the man, which is what I find very funny.
All right. Do you think that most of the things that Nnamdi Kanu said, which of course you said there were statements that could set the nation on fire, but if you look through some of the statements that were made in plight of what Ipob is representing or standing for, is there some element of truth in the clamor for the secession based on the current realities in the sphere of things being done in the country?
No, the point is this. Whatever it was Nnamdi Kanu was saying, there were truths in them. But Esther, to be honest with you, I don't like sounding tribalistic. The Yoruba have their own problems with Nigeria. They are not happy. The Fulani have theirs. The Kanuri have theirs. The Nupe have theirs. The Birom have theirs. The Ebira have theirs. The Igala, the Tiv, the Juku, the Idomaman, the Igedeman, the Hausa. Everybody in Nigeria has a problem with Nigeria. Which was why when President Buhari came in 2016 and said the report of the National Confab was for dust and the archives, we said, Mr. President, you're getting very wrong. Now, if even a group like the conservative Yoruba could not throw up something like Sunday Igboho, just told you how far People are being pushed. It's good that President Tinubu has now come and said that he wants to pursue national healing. I hope he wants it. I hope he pursues it not just with words, but in real, serious action. Which is why, looking at the justiciability of the case, if the federal government does not have serious evidence and grounds, if the Supreme Court of Nigeria now declares and says free Nnamdi Kanu, and the government doesn't think that freeing him is the best, in security they'll tell you that security comes before freedom. Did you get that? Philosophers of truth tell that security comes before. You cannot talk of freedom when there's no security. I believe Dr. Hassan understands that very well. You can't talk of freedom when there's no security. It's not possible. If the government believes that Nnamdi Kanu is a national security threat, and the courts are saying this man is free, let him go, we can save ourselves the hassle of coming to such a day now by beginning to look at what the government of Enugu State has gone to meet the president and say, release him to me. So if the government has looked at the case and seen that they may not even win at the Supreme Court, it is better now we begin to sit down and say, how can we best? So that's why I said in the end, we may come to a political solution, but the price should not be too high for us to pay. So how can we begin from now to solve this problem? That's my own concern. Yes, the issue of his lawyers not allowing him. Honestly speaking, I don't see why lawyers would say, if the report said the client requested that the doctors come and meet him. We had read all kinds of reports.
He requested that his lawyer comes to meet him.
We've read all kinds of reports that the DSS was not giving him enough food, was not So if the man now said, allow my lawyers, allow my doctors to come and meet me, perhaps, I don't know the agreement Nnamdi Kanu signed with his lawyers, but I'm even wondering, should the lawyers particularly, stand in the way of if doctors want, because in the DSS facility, doctors may be seeing him and be recording whatever it is that there's. So I'm just a bit frustrated.
Dr. Hassan. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Dr. Hassan, I want to bring you to what my colleague, Cyril, the other guest in the studio, just said. He made a point. He said it seems like the government is more interested in persecuting than prosecuting. Maybe to make a point. What do you make of that statement?
Yes, it's right, because really there are actions government too has taken which are not justifiable in this issue. But something he said last, which is what I've been advocating for, is solutions to this matter. And I have said that one of the strategy that we can end this issue and the government will release Nnamdi Kanu so that there can be peace in the southeast and other parts of the country is, at this point, since Supreme Court has given a judgment and Nnamdi Kanu is now, they won the case. It's now for the family, they should come up with the conditions that on this basis, you should release Nnamdi Kanu. Simple. When these things
should
are
come up with
brought up,
conditions?
yes. The two parties that, yes, you are holding our person on the basis of this, but release it on these conditions, that such things or whatever, this is what's going to happen. Because the fear is that allowing this person, possible such things will continue, which is why the government is still holding on to it. Because by look at it, if a court has given a judgment and say, release this person and pay compensations, why are you still holding it? But there's what we call the reason for the state actions, which I'm now looking at, that the only solution now to it, for us to have peace, is to say, okay, let us come up with the conditions. And on this basis of these conditions, this person will be released. Then the matter ends there.
All right. Okay, Dr. Hassan. So here is a thing. Okay.
Yes. Because from the previous issues across other world where you have such issue, government still has the power, or whatever so you call it. Anywhere you are in the world, they can still come after you.
All right. So
okay. Is that let us get that, okay, we lay these conditions on this basis. Since Supreme Court has given the judgment in his favor, you will see that if this idea, this strategy is being used, it's going to be a smooth ride.
All right.
Quickly.
Okay, so
yes.
Dr. Hassan, here is the thing. Do you think this particular drama happening within the camp of Nnamdi Kanu, his lawyers, and possibly the brother, would affect the case, the process of the case at the Supreme Court? Do you think this would greatly affect the case of Nnamdi Kanu?
Yes, definitely it will affect it. Because if the Ezekomen refuses to continue with the case, which means they have to bring in a new lawyer who will do that.
And then that means
So
they'll have to start all over again.
Exactly, that's why I said we don't know why Ezekomen has refused. We needed to find out from him what is the problem, because he is like also an institution as an establishment who has been able to win this case. That's why I said, is it possible that the first agreement they have is to win this case? After winning the case, then whatever agreement should be signed off. Then if there will be any second phase, it's a new thing. That's why I said in every lawyer, every case, the interest that let me win this case for my client, and which he has did.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I said he even went in public fora where he knelt down on his knees and said he's begging President Buhari at that time, a former president, for SAN, a lawyer, to do that. He has went even beyond legal only, adding politics inside by kneeling in the public that is begging the federal government, the Buhari administrations, to release this man. So
all right, now
we need to get to him and know why. That now in terms of issue of medical and all that, he has not. It's not someone who you think he has fear of a government. No. He challenged government where government has did very wrong.
all right then.
This is the truth.
All right.
Yes.
So okay. Now, if let's just say let's assume that the government is troubled that if they release Nnamdi Kanu, he might continue instigating and inciting people against the government. Let's just assume
Yes.
that is the fear. Now, regardless of the fact that he's still in detention, we know that there's still unrest in the southeast. There's major unrest. Now, as a security person, are there no measures that can be put in place? And if there are, tell us the measures that can be put in place to ensure that this individual will be released and will not abscond. Because there are talks that, okay, he might abscond, run out of the country like he did the last time, and and then start to incite people from over there. What are the measures that can be put in place to ensure that, look, this individual can and will be released and will not leave the country, but will still live as a free man within the country? What are those measures, if there are?
Okay, yeah, there are many measures in terms of achieving peace. Because sometimes we always say that if you want peace, you have to prepare for war in order to bring peace. Now, if you look at the issue, it has become a movement where people, it's like a faith, a religion, that people believe in Nnamdi Kanu so much that whatever he said, people will believe in it and has the follower. That is why I said, now that we have brought the issue of measure, it is for the Nnamdi Kanu on himself to come up with the conditions that release me. Certain this will not happen. I want him to be free, both locally and internationally. If you are giving someone the freedom, why are you saying he should not even travel out? But it is now for him to come up with the conditions that, okay, on this basis, these are certain things I am laying for government to release me to have my freedom, and such things will not happen. They lay it out. Then government will now look at it vis-a-vis, and with the elders of the state and everything will now be so okay. On the basis of this man is going to be released. Simple. Then there will be peace in the land. But not in the situations you are releasing him, you are saying he should not travel out. No, I will not agree, because give him his total freedom. But come up with the conditions that on the basis of this, on the basis of this, on the basis of this, there will be peace. Then all this we put in place. Then they sign it off.
Well,
Simple.
I'm just wondering if the courts have said let him go, will and the government has refused, is it the man that will now say, okay, let me go? That the
No,
government will attend to.
Yeah,
If you
so
look
I
at
think
it critically, You see, I've said it. There are sometimes certain things we don't want to understand because me as a security expert, why you don't want to release this man when the court has said so. It is the fear of the government
Yeah.
that if you allow this man to just go on the platter of court judgment, legislature is an independent, they've done their work. There's a case they have to do it against the government because that is what the rule says.
Yeah.
But the government will now tell you that on this basis,
Yeah.
we will not agree. So you could see that the fear of the government is that there will be more issues if this man was just released on the basis of the court.
Judgment. Yes. So I totally agree with
This basis, I'm strongly convinced. It is on this basis the government is still continue to hold him. And look, if a court of appeal has given the first judgment, why did they still say we must go to Supreme Court? It's a delay tactics that the government has applied as a strategy. Now the Supreme Court has said, free this man. So you should also understand that, yes, me as a security expert, the fear of the government is that if this man is being free, then there will be more problem. On this basis, we'll continue to hold the person. This is the problem.
Yes.
That's why I say, okay, for Nnamdi Kanu freedom, as a security expert, come up with the conditions that on this basis, we should be released. Simple.
You know, for me, I totally understand where Dr. Hassan is coming from. It's about pragmatism. Except that government, the Buhari government, seriously abused that privilege. You know, the same thing happened with Sambo Dasuki. The court said let him go. They kept him there. There was no reason for keeping him. There was no basis for keeping him. They just kept him there. Sometimes government can do that. And people can understand why. But in Nnamdi Kanu's case, I think the thing was abused and over-abused. Now, Ohaneze approached the president and said, release him to us. Igbo elders went to Asura and said, release him to us. We'll do the needful. The president gave a body language of he was going to listen to what they said. Then some days later said, oh no, we're not going to release him. You know? Then in this also, then as President Tinubu has come to, the governor of Enugu has gone to say, release Nnamdi Kanu to me. I don't think the president should release Nnamdi Kanu to an individual. He shouldn't do that. There should be maybe the Southeast Governors Fund, they should come together. And that's what should happen. Like Dr. Hassan has said, there should be an understanding to say, because the man's case has serious political and security implications for Nigeria. If you overlook that one, you're overlooking something that could turn out to be a monster on our hands. Okay? So there should be that date on that discussion between the leaders of the South and federal government to say, okay, please, Mr. President, release him to us. We know I mean, 6 years or 7 years of this agitation is enough to tell us where this can go. The governors of the South are saying they don't want the Monday sit at home anymore. So they are saying that this whole Ipob thing, of course, Ipob has already been outlawed. So
course, yes.
So what they now need is a real. The issue is this: how do we release Nnamdi Kanu and have him shut his mouth? I think that is really the question now. So President Tinubu and the people inside this should come together, sit down, have a conversation, and then hopefully. But I think that in the end, we will come to the point where Nnamdi Kanu's work, because if the law says it should work, I don't see why government will keep him, locked up. But the question is between when the court speaks and when he'll be released, how long will that time be? So, but eventually that time has to come. So the earlier they sit down to have a discussion, the better. You have the Obio for Nature, you have the governors, you have Ohaneze, you have past governors, past military commander, past generals from the Southeast. They should all come together and have all right, and then know what they want to do.
Okay. Well, we must say a very big thank you to Dr. Hassan. And thank you, Dr. Hassan, for being with us. But we'll like for you to stay with us for a little bit longer as we go into another topic. Coming up next, which is the other topic that we're having, it's the talk about a former Nigerian senator who has confessed to winning legal battles for his friends through his wife, whose judicial impartiality he encroached upon. Yes, he actually did use the word encroach, like I encroached upon her freedom.
All right, so the Nigerian Bar Association has expressed shock at the confession of a former Senator Adamu Bokachua on how he influenced the decisions of his wife, Zainab Bokachua, while she was a president of the Court of Appeal. Now, in the NBA's first public comment on the event that took place during the 9th Senate valedictory session on Saturday, the association's president, Yakubu Mekio, said that he watched the video clip of Mr. Bukachuwa's confession with disbelief. Mr. Mekio, who noted that the National Judicial Council similarly condemned Mr. Bukachuwa's conduct at its meeting on Wednesday, called for the investigation and prosecution of the former senator, vowing that the NBA will at all times rise to the defense of the honor, integrity, and independence of the judiciary. He called on the Inspector General of Police, the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, to immediately invite Senator Ahmed Mohamed Bukachuwa for interrogation and proceed to prosecute him accordingly. He said he would follow up his call with a letter to both the IGP and the ICPC chairman in this respect. Now, NBA's reaction came on Wednesday, 4 days after Mr. Bukachuwa confessed during the valedictory session of the 9th Assembly, which was held on Saturday. The video clip, which emerged on the internet on Monday, showed Mr. Bukachuwa, who failed to secure a re-election to the Senate, saying to his colleagues, and I quote, "I look at faces in this chamber whom have come to me and sought for my help when my wife was the president of the Court of Appeal." Then Senate President Ahmed Lawan, who presided over the valedictory proceedings, was so shocked by the comments that he attempted to interrupt the submissions of the 83-year-old. But Mr. Bukachuwa defiantly expressed his concluding thoughts on the matter before conceding to Mr. Lawan's call on him to desist. Now, concluding his remarks, the former senator said again, and to quote him, "And I must thank particularly my wife, whose freedom and independence I encroached upon while she was in office, and she has been very tolerant and accepted my encouragement and extend her help to my colleagues," end quote. Now, Mr. Hassan, you heard particularly this particular scenario. Obviously, this man, who some may say it's because he's old, he's 86-year-old, but he's 86, 83 rather. The confidence with which he came out to make this confession without fear that there will be criticisms or anyone will call him out is actually why I'm asking. Apparently, if not the senator, I'm sure other senators too, or other individuals or other elites who have access to this power, access to individuals at the judiciary, have also been doing the same thing. I need your take on this, actually.
Okay. Yes, I watched actually the video, what happened that day. If not because of the age of the man, I would have said it's a disgrace to the wife as a husband. In the first place, that is one. Two, in the legal aspect of it, if you look at it, he said that his wife has influences. He went to his wife on behalf of his colleagues for helping them in terms of their cases, many faces who are here. But that is on the one side. But on the judgment, he cannot claim that because of his influence, that is why some of his friends were actually giving judgment. Because the case before the Lordship there has a merit and has a procedure and a process before a judgment is being delivered by any judge of any court. Now, the issue there is that it's only bordering on the moral ground of a politician who feel that because when his wife is in social place, he has used his influences to do that. There are cases where, whether you say so or not, you have won the case based on what is before the judge. But the man might come out here publicly and say so. To have that a kind of exhibiting some certains where people look at him as a man with all connections, even to the judiciary, that which means he has seduced his wife to do what ordinarily he shouldn't supposed to do. It's the same way where a man too has said, my wife has come to beg me, I've begged my husband on the basis of this and have influences on him. So you could see that these are things that it is not every, will I say, at the age or you are that determine what you can offer, both in a public and a private. Because a senator of a federal republic shouldn't have been uttered such word.
No, but
Even to the extent
Dr. Hassan, you said
yes,
that it is not possible for the wife to have made judgments if it doesn't have merit. This man brazenly, openly came out to say that on several occasions he encroached upon his wife. He thanks her. He goes to meet her after the case had been won for his colleagues and his friends, and thanks her for the judgment that she gave, which favored his friends at the Senate. The thing is this, Dr. Hassan, these things happen. It actually takes place, whether we like it or not. You recall that we've been asking that the judiciary should try as much as possible, because they're the last hope of the common man, to create that sense of morality and balance. But we cannot hold it above our head or look aside to say that such influences do not take place, especially if one has access to these judges, if you have the financial means to. So don't you think that a proper investigation should be made on the wife? Also, don't you think further on, you know, as time goes forward, if the wife gives judges or makes proclamations on cases before her, that anyone wouldn't question it based on what the husband has outrightly come out to say?
Yes, I'm not saying that investigation should not be carried out. That is why I said from the beginning of my statement that it's a disgrace to the family, which means every woman who hopes to be in such career should watch who you are going to marry. The same way as a man, you also need to watch who wants to be in that career, the kind of a woman you are going to marry. This is what, to me, that the younger generations in that profession should learn, and the kind of utterances a politician should say in the public fold. But the point I'm trying to say in essence is that we need to know, yes, investigate. If you want to retry that case, it might be in futility, because the case's judgment has its merit in the first places, which means you are calling to retry that case. This is what you are calling now. It is good to investigate, but the point I'm trying to say in essence is that at the end of the day, you will now see that those cases he's talking about on behalf of his friends were just merely begging unknown before his colleagues. Because what normally happens to a politician here is, that's why I keep on saying it. It is only when our politicians lost an election, he believed he won, that was being maneuvered.
Okay.
If it's the one who wins, he will say the INEC has done the right thing. But the point I'm trying to make in essence is that, yes, it is good to investigate this case so that those who are in that career should know who they relate with and what they say, what they accepted, what they should not accept.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So let's have your view.
Yeah, so I think I am more troubled by the moral implication of what the senator said. I agree with Dr. Hassan. You can't prove this thing. He said is inadmissible in court for many reasons. Because of course, if we go to court, you need witnesses who will say they didn't hear what he said very well.
Walls have ears.
Well, when it is time, you have the ears in your words and take them to court for him. But then number two is the fact that I think the only ray of hope we have left here is the NJC.
Okay.
What the NJC will do is to revisit those cases and marry the material evidence against the substantive issues that were brought to the court. If there were cases where the evidence was not enough to vitiate or substantiate a particular case, and the judge went on to use discretion, overreaching discretion to award a judgment, in that case, she will have questions to answer. But the fact that a senator can sit in the hallowed chambers and be telling an already weary nation, a country of many hopeless people, I mean, and this is very true, people who have hopelessness in who have given up on the promise of our country, can sit on national TV and be saying that, did you see the words he used? That he sees his face of his colleagues here, people that ran to him for help, and he helped them. That he encroached upon the independence of his wife.
Confidently, Cyril.
You know, this sort of braggadocious declaration of personal triumph over the system, over institutions, over law, over the judiciary, over order. that for a fact, Governor Wike's wife is a judicial officer. Same also as former Governor Peter of the River State, who his wife retired from the Supreme Court recently. So does it mean that because you're a lawyer, because somebody is a politician, his wife should not aspire to be whatever it is she wants to be? We know that in law, as in medicine, doctors and lawyers and judges are supposed to keep matters from the office confidential, especially when they border on matters that have implications for public interest. They swear to oaths that make them say that they're going to be confidential in those matters. I wonder how,
So underground, should she also be tried?
No,
for discussing
the NJC.
Matters.
No, of course,
in her room.
It's a ground. It's a ground. If it's proven, it's a clear ground. It's a breach. People go to. Now we can include pastors. People go to lawyers and say, "This is what really happened," and the matter is in court. You can't lie to your lawyer. Everything tell him is in confidence. You go to the doctor. Somebody has a terminal ailment. That's why medical records are confidential. Mm-hmm. Medical records, legal records, they are confidential. But in a matter in which it is even, and this is the problem, the fact that it was even the senator who took the matter to his wife, she ought to be saying, this line you're about to cross
is wrong.
I'm your wife, but I'm also a justice, not a judge.
Sure, it means that they select her. For example, if a case has to do with his friend, it was okay. I need your wife to preside over this case. I need her as a judge to be in charge of this case.
This is the point. When you are president, you see, from Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, you're no longer a judge. You are a justice, okay, to be addressed as justice, so and so. Okay. But for the lower court, you are a judge to be addressed as justice, so and so. So you are a justice. I believe that has to do with the sacredness of your response, because whether you are ruling or not, you are already, at Appeal Court and Supreme Court, you're already a justice, one. Number two is the fact that as president of Court of Appeal, she determines the judges who sit in the cases.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So that's a sacred, that's a very high post for somebody to be playing. To be saying, okay, your friend has a case, mm-hmm, or yeah, I will know whether let me look my classmate that two with me in those states. Okay, the other center from Kebbi. Mm-hmm. Let me look for your classmate that schooled with me in Zamfara. Mm-hmm. How do you reduce? It is this kind of things that make people that didn't contest for primaries. You saw who was telling him to off his mic. Mm-hmm. You saw who was saying preferably off your mic, figuratively. So, a man who didn't contest in the Senate in the primaries went to court and won. That is the original possessor of the ticket. It's a mystery, like Rusha Sokorocha said. I'm just surprised. This is the reason why
is there a possibility he was a beneficiary?
No, well, she was. Bukachua, I think, retired in maybe some
2018.
Yeah, so of course this whole thing involving the Senate president happened in 2023 now, because he ran for president, he didn't get the ticket. He now went back to take a ticket from Machina that he never contested for. So maybe there are other Bukachuas who are buried in the system, whose work is to, God, give us the judgment. He just goes and says, what do you want? You carry the gavel and say, as from today, it should be like this. Right. So this is where we are. And okay. It's not funny.
Okay, Dr. Hassan, let me come to you now. Let's take this on a lighter note now. Let's water things down a bit. Isn't this typical of the African man who tries to prove his authority? I mean, not too long ago, I think in 2020, we saw Senator Ado Al-Hassan Dogua come to the floor of the House with his 4 wives to prove that he's a man of authority both at home and on the floor. You know, he was braggadocious about it. He brought the wives and told them, stand up. And they stood up. And after they said, these are my wives, they obey me, sit down. And they sat down right there on the floor. Isn't that the African man mentality? What do you make of that?
Yes, well, as you said on a lighter note, you know, by the nature of Africa, if we understand ourselves, God created us to live large. And we also have that resources to maintain that largeness. So it's just that in certain quarters, we did not able to construct it in a manner that would be more befitting than the way some construct it. That is where. The book you are talking about now, I am looking at it that the man might just try to exacerbate some certain link with his colleagues to show them that, look, despite I'm not going to be here, but I've done this, which is a typical of a politician who tried to claim what he has not even do. That's why I said, okay, when Bukachua was the president of a court of appeal, he assigned cases to a judge. So possible she's not even the one who sit on that particular cases. That is why I say at the end of the day it will be on futility.
Yes, exactly.
But he should be interrogated because the kind of where the man's lay at the public there, he does not deserve to be a senator. That is why I said if not because of his age, he does not qualify to be the husband of that woman. So you see it that a politician here, they say all sort of anything that has not content in it. The same way a man who brought 4 of his wives to the Harlow chamber and said stood up, all of them should stood up. You can imagine the kind of senators you are having. What does that have to do with your passing of a bill and all that? If you go now deeply, ask the man, how many bills have you passed since you are here? So this is the problem. But I think the way we are going as a country developing, our democracy with time is taking shape. Because the youth today are taking part in politics. So they are taking over. You can hear there's a young guy in this house, the current 10th assembly, who talks about the oil leakages, the amount of money, the percentage you can be used to even pay our foreign debt today.
All right.
These are the kind of, yes, you can take he gave.
All right.
Okay.
So to me, it is the end of this level of people are already on the way out, where I said the youth should now take part in politics. So that issues should be discussed more than politics.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan, for staying with us
Yes.
on VOP this morning. We appreciate you for your time. And big
Thank you
thanks
for
to
having
Cyril Abako as well for staying with us all the way from Newspaper Review up until this time.
Yeah,
We also appreciate you for your time.
Pleasure.
All right, so we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get into business, and then entertainment will follow. Stay with us.